Hello and welcome to the first of what we hope is a series of podcasts from the Scotcoin Project. Tonight, myself, Willie Fleming, the director of the project, will be getting quizzed by Douglas Drummond, one of our senior developers, about Scotcoin, where it came from, where it is now, and where it's going. So, Douglas.
So, Willie, I was wondering, could you tell me, why did Scotcoin begin?
Why did Scotcoin begin? It's a big question, a very wide question, and to get the full answer for that you'd need to ask the originator of Scotcoin, Derek Nisbet. Derek first came away with the concept of Scotcoin way back in the dim and distant days of cryptocurrency, when most of us knew absolutely nothing, and if we did know anything, there was something called Bitcoin. Derek had the vision of a cryptocurrency for Scotland to be used by all Scots, and he was the man who started us off on this journey. As it stood then, Scotcoin was what was known as a coloured coin and was pretty much a fairly straight copy of Bitcoin running on its own blockchain, and with all the responsibilities that come along with that. The coin was distributed not as widely as we would have hoped to a fairly small number of people who happened to be on the right mailing lists at the right time, and a small number, like under 1,000 of us, were lucky enough to get large amounts of the coin then. As now, there were 1 billion Scotcoin, and we've never wavered from that stance that there will only ever be 1 billion Scotcoin, and thus the currency itself will be essentially deflationary.
So you mentioned that Scotcoin first came about in 2014, Willie. Can you tell us a bit more about what happened then and lead us up to the current Scotcoin situation?
Yeah, well, the history of Scotcoin is very much bound up with the story of the current affairs of Scotland at the time. In 2014, if you remember, where there was a referendum, Scotland as a subject was very high in people's consciousness, and the idea of a currency for Scotland, in retrospect, was, why did nobody think of it before? Derek Nisbet was the guy who did, and he was the leader, and he took it forward. However, a project like this needs a large team of large number of people with a varied amount of skills, and unfortunately the people with these skills were too busy getting involved on various sides of the referendum debate, and there was not enough resource available to make the project move forward as fast or as securely as we would have liked. And the situation was that because Scotcoin was running its own blockchain, that blockchain was vulnerable to attacks from all sorts of outside threats, and eventually came down to a situation where Derek had to spend most of his time fending off these attacks. And he then took, at the time, a very good decision to move the coin from its own blockchain to using the counterparty protocol. This is a protocol which piggybacks on top of the main Bitcoin blockchain, which is effectively unhackable. Others may disagree, but I'd like to call it effectively unhackable for the practical purposes at the time. This changed the whole aspect of the coin from being something that could be mined to a coin where we actually paid a small amount of Bitcoin for each transaction. But it did make the coin much more robust, reliable, and in fact, if he hadn't taken that decision, then things would not have looked good.
So you've told us a little bit more about the current Scotcoin situation, so I was wondering, Willie, can you tell me more about how you're looking to develop Scotcoin and how the user base has grown?
Well, we've moved from having several hundred active accounts when we moved over onto the counterparty protocol, now to the situation where we have many thousands of accounts, where many thousands of people have downloaded the wallet, actually hold Scotcoin and are trading with it. It's now possible to buy beer with Scotcoin. It's now possible to rent office space, get a website built, get your chimney swept if you live in the right part of the town, of the country. There's all sorts of things, and more merchants are realising that Scotcoin is now a viable, usable alternative to sterling. Much cheaper and faster to process through the account of the bank, and in effect an advantage for any small to medium sized enterprise. So moving forward, we are now looking to get our own branded wallet that says Scotcoin. At present we use third party wallets which work perfectly adequately, but in terms of moving the coin forward, in terms of getting identity for the coin, it's important we have our own branded wallet, and work on that is on hand as we speak. We will be seriously ramping up our marketing efforts. We now have good solid investors behind us, and they realise the potential of the coin and are happy to move forward with us and our vision for the coin, which is an effective alternative to sterling for use by Scots and all who wish to trade with Scots. We intend to have an entirely viable alternative to the present old-fashioned pound note.
So what are some of the key challenges that you're faced with Scotcoin?
Our basic challenges are the fact people don't know about us. We've got a brand awareness problem. We need to get our brand, we need to get the name out there, and having got it out there, we need to educate the general public about what Scotcoin is, what cryptocurrency is, and how there are many other cryptocurrencies in the world apart from Bitcoin. If you mention cryptocurrency to the average person, those who understand it have probably only heard of Bitcoin. They don't realise that there are many other alternatives out there. We also have a perception problem with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It's been known mostly in the news as something that criminals would use, mentioned in terms of the Silk Road, and for drug dealing. That's a little unfair. For many years before cryptocurrency arrived, drug deals were done with card bookfuls and suitcases full of pound notes and dollars. Nobody has ever suggested banning cash as a result of what it was used for, so this is a little unfair. However, these are the perceptions that people have, and we need to get out there and change these perceptions. So it's an education job we have. Education, 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 as somebody once said. We need to educate people about what cryptocurrencies are. We need to educate people about what money is, what a store of value is, and how a cryptocurrency, and specifically in our case Scotcoin, how that is a good fit for their needs as a store of value and as something to trade with.
So bearing in mind that Bitcoin itself is not even 10 years old yet, can you tell us a bit more about the technology behind it and the idea of blockchain?
Well, the technology behind Bitcoin really is the blockchain, and blockchain is a very new set of technologies. It only predates Bitcoin by a couple of years. It's actually a combination of techniques, first pioneered by the development team on the Linux kernel core team, but that's probably too much information. Most people don't need. So what we have is, as the name suggests, blockchain, a chain of blocks. We have blocks of information that have been cryptographically checked to be correct. It's on the record, and these are checked. And each block is linked to the block in front of it and behind it by a cryptographic signature. That sounds complicated, but what it really means is that to go back and try and rewrite history, you've got to rewrite the entire entire history, and you have to have the computing power necessary to rewrite that history. And that effectively means it's impossible. Therefore, it's a store of truth, a shared store of truth that everybody can get to, and it is immutable. It cannot be changed. Once it's in and we agree, it's there, it's set in stone.
So just thinking back on some of the challenges that we're facing, how do you think that we'll surmount these going forward?
Well, really, to get over the basic conception that people need to have about cryptocurrency so they're happy to use it, we need to get out there and educate them. We need to educate people about what cryptocurrencies are, a little bit about the technology behind it, so that it just doesn't sound like a bunch of magic, which, to be fair, it can look like, especially when it's only us geeks that are talking about it. We need to explain to people that yes, there are proper scientific principles behind this. There are immutable rules, and it's not just something the geeks have made up. So we'll be doing that by getting out and talking to groups, both formally and informally. Anybody who's prepared to have us on as speakers, we will send a speaker and tell them about what we're about. In a more formal sense, we're offering continuum professional development courses, known as CPD, and they're aimed mostly at the bankers, the lawyers, the financial technicians, and those people who need to know how the future of financial products and finance is going to evolve over the next few years, and it's going to change and change very quickly. These people need to learn about it, and we intend to tell them about it. By doing this and generally raising the consciousness and raising the education level, it makes it a lot easier when we start a proper marketing push to really get the word out about Scotcoin and why it is a viable and a good alternative, especially for our small and medium-sized businesses to accept. And given the uncertainty that there may be in Scotland over what currency we're going to use, why Scotcoin and a cryptocurrency is the perfect fit for that.
So what is the ultimate ambition for Scotcoin?
The ultimate ambition is to have a viable cryptocurrency that, as I have said before, is in use throughout the population on a daily basis, and to be used anywhere where an electronic transfer of cash, of transfer of value would take place, so that it could be used at the supermarket instead of putting your card in and being asked if you want cash back. You'll be able to point your Scotcoin enabled phone or any other device at the till, just like you would use your card previously. In any cases like that, you'll be able to use Scotcoin online. In effect, almost anywhere where you would use your card, and it will become an awful lot easier and cheaper and faster to do a transaction with Scotcoin than it is at the moment with credit card, debit card charges, which aren't always obvious, but they're added on to the cost to the retailer. Therefore, you're paying for them yourself anyway. We want Scotcoin to be out there, used daily by Scots amongst themselves, and also to be used as for international trade. There is no reason why whisky, etc., should not be traded in Scotcoin. There's no reason why any of our exports should not be traded in Scotcoin. The coin itself will be backed by the economy of Scotland, and as such there's no reason why it should not have the respect that any other national currency has. Now, to get to this situation is going to require an awful lot of hard work, not only from the Scotcoin team, but from every other Scot or anybody else who shares our vision and will help us spread the word. Get out there, tell people, spread the word about cryptocurrency and why it's such a good alternative and why it really makes sense. And with your help, we will get there, and we will have a viable alternative to the tired old pound in your pocket.
So that was an interview with Willie Fleming from the Scotcoin Project. Next time you'll tell us a bit more about our sister company Scotesc.com and the CPD accredited training programs that they provide. We'll also learn a bit more about the business loans that the Scotcoin Project hopes to offer any new Scottish startups, and we'll also look more at the merchant directory that we're trying to build and how you can get your business details entered onto it.
Well, thank you for that, Douglas, and I look forward to welcoming you all to the next in this series of podcasts from the Scotcoin Project. Thank you.